Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome again to my YouTube channel. And in today's video, we are trying to treat reaction kinetics series 1. Follow me as I try to explain all what you have to understand about this particular core concept in chemistry 101. Follow me. In reaction kinetics today, we'll be trying to explain the rate of chemical reactions, types of rate of chemical reaction, the rate of chemical reaction, molecularity of a chemical reaction, elementary reactions, and overall reactions. I'll be breaking this into all this. So we're talking about the rate of chemical reaction, the type of rate of chemical reaction, the molecularity of the chemical reaction, the elementary reaction, and overall reaction. Follow me as I move forward. When we are talking about reaction kinetics, we are trying to explain how a particular reactant is being transformed into a particular product. When I have A plus B to give C, automatically my A and my B, they are reactants. But they'll give C. I'm not really interested, or maybe they give C or not, but I'm interested on how my A and B combines together to give C. So in short, reaction kinetics is the study of the processes by which reactants transformed into the product. So now we'll be trying to explain the rate of chemical reaction. The rate of chemical reaction can either be written in terms of the reactant or in terms of the what? In terms of the product. Because in a particular reaction, your product decreases, your reactant is being used up. That means that your reactant is decreasing, and your product increases because your product is being formed. So if you want to write the rate of chemical reaction, anywhere you see rate, that is, we are justifying it based on time. So that will be the rate of chemical reaction for the reactant. So the rate of chemical reaction for the reactant now, because we write them singly. Maybe we are talking about reactant A, reactant B, or product C. So the rate of a chemical reaction for reactant A will now because minus change in concentration of A over time. And the reason why I put minus there is because of my reactant is decreasing. Right? If I have a concentration of maybe 0.2 mole per dm cube, by the time the reaction will be done, my reactant can later fall into maybe 0.02. That means that my reactant is decreasing, but my product is increasing. So if you want to write the rate of chemical reaction, for reactant B, then I will say my B equals to the minus change in B over T. That means that the minus change in reactant B over minus change in reactant, or minus change in the concentration of reactant B over the time. This negative sign is showing that both my A and B, they are decreasing because they are reactants. So if I want to write the rate of chemical reaction of C, the rate of chemical reaction of C will now be equal to rate of C will now be equal to change plus change in concentration of C over time. This one is plus because it is my product, and it's increasing. So this is what we call the general rate law. This particular formula, writing the rate law like this is called the general rate of chemical reaction. And I want you to know something. The rate of chemical reaction always equal to each other. So let's take one. So I cannot rewrite this like this. I cannot write like, so my rate of chemical reaction is equal to minus change in concentration of A over time is equals to minus change in concentration of B over time is equals to plus change in concentration of C over time. That is, we have studied the rate at which A is decreasing with respect to time. We have studied the rate at which B is decreasing with respect to With respect to time. We also studied the rate at which C is being increased With respect to what? With respect to time. So this is the particular what? Rate of chemical reaction. And it is called what? The general rate of chemical reaction. So let's move to the second types of rate of chemical reaction that we call the specific rate of chemical reaction. In a particular condition, if I have an hypothetical equation that said 2a plus 3b plus b to give what? To give 3c. Yeah, this is an hypothetical reaction. An hypothetical reaction is a particular reaction that doesn't exist, right? So if I don't want to write a rate of chemical reaction for this thing, I must take the coefficient in front of each of the particular units in the reaction consideration. I must take the coefficient into consideration, right? So I will not say that the rate of A, the rate of chemical reaction of A, the rate of A will now be equal to what? Minus 1 over 2 change in A. That is the reciprocal of the coefficient. Then I will say rate of B, the rate of B is equal to minus what? Minus change in B over what? Over C, because the reciprocal is 1, right? Then I will not say the rate of C, is, that will now be plus 1 over 3 change in C over time. That means that all these particular things, they are specific rate because we are specifying them based on the what? The number of moles that each of the units in that particular reaction has. Am I communicating? So also they will also be equals to what? They will also be equals to each other. So I cannot have minus 1 over 2 change in A over time is equals to minus 1 over or minus change in B over time is equals to plus 1 over 3 change in C over time. So this is what is specific rate of chemical reaction. So in any particular question, they can ask you, they can give you the particular concentration of a reactant and ask you to calculate what? The rate of chemical reaction. Assuming I was told that initially the rate of what? The rate of A is what? 0.20 moles. And after it has already been transformed into products, it decreases to about what? 0.10 mole. Then I cannot say my rate of chemical reaction of A, my rate of A will now be equal to what? 0.10 mole, that is the final, minus what? 0.20 moles over the change in time. They will give you a specific time. And please note, the time must be converted to what? To seconds. So, and then don't forget that your minus is there. Your minus is there. So by the time you subtract this and this, you get what? A negative value. So your negative times negative will give a positive. That means that whether you are talking about the rate of chemical reaction of a product or you are talking about the rate of chemical reaction of a reactant, your rate of chemical reaction must have a what? Positive value. So after we have already analyzed the rate of chemical reaction, we've analyzed the type of chemical reaction. Now, let's try to explain what we mean by what? The molecularity of a particular chemical reaction. When we are talking about molecularity of a particular chemical reaction, we are talking about the number of moles, the number of ions, the number of atoms of a particular reactant present in a particular reaction. If I have this hypothetical equation of what? A plus B to give C. If I now want to talk about what is the molecularity of this reaction, the molecularity of this reaction is what? 1 plus 1. Meaning what? The molecularity of the reaction is what? Is 2. Molecularity is what? Is equals to 2. Same thing, I can have 2A plus B to give me C. What is the molecularity of the reaction? The molecularity of the reaction is 3. Molecularity is equals to what? Molecularity is equals to 3. Because by the I have 2 here, I have 1 here. 2 plus 1 is equals to what? Is equals to 3. Then this is where students now made a mistake. If I have something like this, 3A plus B to give C, then a smart student will be like, well, another type of student will be like, molecularity is equals to 4. Molecularity is equals to 4. This is wrong because by the time you have more than 3, your molecularity does not exist. Please take notes. Anytime the moles of all the reactants is more than 3, molecularity does not exist. So here, molecularity is not equals to 0. Molecularity does not what? Molecularity does not exist. Doesn't exist at all. Molecularity doesn't exist. So that is what we said. Molecularity doesn't exist. So that's what we call molecularity. And when your molecularity is equals to 1, because we can have a situation whereby my A can just transform to C. This is molecularity equals to 1 because only my reactant has a mole of 1. Then when your molecularity equals to 1, then it is called unimolecular reaction. Unimolecular reaction. When my molecularity is equals to 2, then it's called what? Bimolecular reactions. Bimolecular reactions. When my molecularity is equals to 3, then we call it thermolecular reaction. Please take note. Thermolecular reaction. Thermolecular what? Reaction. It is not trimolecular. That's where the student made mistakes. It is not trimolecular. It's thermolecular reaction. Any other molecularity apart from 3, they does not what? They didn't exist. So there is no molecularity of 4, there is no molecularity of 5, because this thing is pertaining what is working based on a particular system. So we have to consider the molecularity. So the molecularity after 3 doesn't exist. It does. Please note, molecularity cannot be equal to 0. Rather, they might not exist. That's just it. So let's move to the mechanisms of the chemical reactions. When we are talking about the mechanisms of the chemical reactions, I want you to know something. When we are talking about mechanism of chemical reaction, we are explaining what the roots, the processes at which your reactant has undergone before transforming its products. A logical example now, you want to cook maybe your white rice, you want to cook white rice now. At the end, you get a white rice and a stew. That your white rice and a stew is called what? Is the product. But the reactant is your raw rice that we go and buy from market woman. When you buy your raw rice, how will you now transform your raw rice into what? Into white rice that you are going to eat. All those processes are mechanisms. First, you wash your raw rice, you light up the stove, you put fire, you put water, you put the raw rice there, you add. All those processes are called what? They are called the mechanism of the chemical reactions. Another example, if I'm coming to UI from challenge is my reactant, UI is my product. What are the routes that I passed? Before me getting to UI, I bought Songu, then I bought UI. All those particular routes, all those particular jaga routes, all of them are called the mechanisms of the what? Of the chemical reactions. I want you to know it very well. That's what we call the mechanism of a chemical. It doesn't have any formula, it doesn't have any calculation, just about your understandings. Now that we have understand this, let's go to the elementary steps. When we are talking about the elementary steps, we are talking about a particular steps that make up the overall reaction. An example, if I want to form A, this is my overall reaction. I said my A plus B is equals to what? Is equals to C. A plus B is equals to C does not just form like that. It has some particular reaction that makes it up. This is a what? This is an overall reaction. This is an overall reaction. So if by the time I now have maybe A plus X to give B, then I said B plus X plus maybe C to give what? To give D. X, then I will say X plus C to give D. So at the end of the day, I now have something like this: A plus B to give D. Sorry, let's just say to give D. Sorry, please note the reaction is hypothetical. It doesn't exist. I'm just using it as an example. This particular final equation is called what? The overall reaction. But all these two, they are called what? Elementary steps. I want you to know about the elementary step. You cannot divide any elementary step into further reaction. No. You cannot divide them. If you not say that you want to take this particular step now, you want to do, no, you can never further divide them. It is already a single step, a simple step that cannot be further divided into what? Into further steps. Because they makes up what? They makes up the overall reaction of a particular, they makes up the overall reaction. So now you can see that this last reaction is what? Overall reaction, which is gotten from the summation of these particular two elementary steps. That is what we call elementary steps. Your elementary steps can be 4, it can be 5, it can be 6, it can be 7. No matter what, it can even be 10. Depending on how spontaneous the reaction is. So at the end of combining all the elementary steps together, they are the one that will now give you the overall reaction. So this is my overall reaction. So automatically my overall reaction can be breaking down. If I break my overall reaction down, then I'm going to get something like this. I'm going to get my elementary steps back. So let me develop overall reaction for you. Overall reaction is the summation of all the elementary steps, which can be further be breaking down into simple steps. And what are the simple steps? They are the what? They are the elementary steps. So that's what we call the overall reaction, the elementary reaction. So let me try to explain what we mean by Rate's law of chemical reaction. When we're trying to explain Rate's law, when I'm trying to explain the Rate's law, Elijah, you can move. I'm a cut passing down.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm sure.